Greetings, you're with Mpoki Thompson for The Citizen and you're watching Mwananchi Digital. Today we are at the French Embassy here in Dar es Salaam. We have the pleasure of the French Ambassador to Tanzania, Mr. Frédéric Clavier. Mr. Ambassador.
Good morning.
Morning. It's such a pleasure to have you. Well, we are going to talk about a few things. We understand that your time as Ambassador of France to Tanzania is almost coming to an end. So basically we'll talk about your achievement, the timeline, since the first day you became Ambassador up until now. So Ambassador, again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, and thank you to receive me. It's a great pleasure, but also a great sadness, because to live a country such as Tanzania is something very special.
Indeed, indeed. So it has already been established that Tanzania and France have historical ties, both political, economic, and we have had interviews with you in the past where you've talked about, you've dissected the different sectors, the different relations that we have. I want to key in on one particular relation, which is the bilateral trade relations. In an interview, you once said that Tanzania and France indeed have good trade relations, but they do not represent the wider ties that Tanzania and France have, which means that maybe the trade relations can be better. Can you elaborate on that, and what do you think can be done in order to make sure that these trade relations are improved in the future?
Yes, well, first, ambition is something important in the relation between Tanzania and France. And even if trade relations are good amounts, every year it's around $200 million, $300 million, which is good, but not enough. I'm sure we can make better. We know we do have two countries which do play for France in Europe, for Tanzania in Africa, a big influence. We have influence, and we are big markets. We have a similar size of people. Our economy is different, but it's complementary. So my view is that we can make more. And this is why I decided to create a Chamber of Commerce, French Tanzanian Chamber of Commerce 2 years ago, to boost the economy and the trade relations. I was very happy 2 months ago when the Vice President Philippe Poupongo paid a visit to France, met the Minister for Trade in France, had a big meeting with a French businessman, so that to see in which perspective we can make better. Tanzania is a big country. You have a chance to belong to two communities, East African community and the SADC. And my view, my dream, as always, to say, well, this country, Tanzania, is a good platform to make trade, as France is a good platform to make trade in Europe. So let us accelerate together.
Indeed. And on to the French Chamber of Commerce, which you are quite instrumental in its establishment. Now we have over 40 French companies that are operating here in Tanzania. As you depart, what is your message to the French business community here in Tanzania?
Well, be confident for the future. This is something they have in mind, to say, look, you are here, the country is good, the perspectives are good. Tanzania is one of the biggest economies in Africa. If you take the growth rates, inflation, public debt, blah, 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 you do have the top 3 or 5 in terms of macroeconomic results. So it is important to be there in Tanzania. This is the way the French companies have in mind. In different sectors, so to say, in energy, in transport, in water, in digital. We have different perspectives in that sense. And my view is to say to my companies, you are not there for 10 years. You are there for 20 years, 30 years. So it's a good place to invest, even if things have to be made day by day to improve the business atmosphere, so that the foreign investment to be comfortable in the country. But, well, my experience is that step by step things are going better and better, which is good.
Perfect. So you've always been at the forefront in the drive to encourage investment, and through that initiative you've collaborated with the private sector and the public sector. what would you highlight as some of the key investment areas that are potential for bigger growth here in Tanzania?
Well, first, to my view, it's agriculture remains one of the main sectors. You know, with a population such as Tanzania, which will double in the next 20 years, it's absolutely decisive to feed the people and to have a security for agriculture. And the country has the capacity for that. So, to my view, the feed security, food security is a topic which is for me number one. And the country, has, in all aspects, has the capacity to increase agriculture. We are very much in support with agriculture sector, both public and private. And for example, in public sector, we do develop the agriculture. It means to use less pesticides, less chemical products, blah, blah, blah. It will make a big difference. And in that sense, Tanzania can be a leader to invent new methodology for agriculture. Also, agriculture is my top one. In the top three, I would say energy, because people do need electricity for business, for private sector, but also for families, and to have new capacities in terms of solar or in terms of wind energy. So it means to be more inventive for the next years. If I take solar, for example, today to Tanzania, it's only between 2 or 3% of the mix, energetic mix. We can make much more. And France has made a proposal for that, and I'm sure we'll be able, both mainland and Zanzibar, to develop the solar capacity, which is not against hydro or against gas, but it's a combination. Because we will need in this country more and more energetic capacities. So every one of the new energy is welcome on board. Yes. I would quote in the top three, transportation, you know, to give the capacity for 26 regions to be connected together, to export, to import, to accelerate mobility, even if it's difficult, because it's important to maintain a good balance, which is the case today between big cities, little cities, and the rural areas. And I think it's important for Tanzania to have a good balance, which is not the case in other countries. Yes. Tanzania has the big chance today to have a relatively good balance between rural and the big cities. But transportation in all means, you know, BRT, aircrafts, roads, blah, 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 in my view, will remain a main aspect of development for the country.
Okay, so it's quite interesting that you mentioned transport as one of the key areas that have the potential for growth. I want us to key in on the air travel. We know that from Magufuli's regime, the government initiated massive investment in reviving ATCL, the Air Tanzania. But then again, according to the Auditor General's report, air transport in Tanzania has been making losses in billions. Would you still see that, or would you advise or encourage the government to continue investing in air transport, to continue buying big aircrafts, Airbus, regardless of the losses that are being made? I just want your view on that.
Well, first I have to respect the sovereign decision taken by the government of Tanzania. But well, my view is it is a good mark to have a brand, to have our country its own national air company. Yes. And the fact that Air Tanzania does exist is an asset, and it's good for the country in terms of image, including for the continent in Africa. Everybody knows that Air Tanzania does exist. Yeah. And in France, in my country, people know they can use Air Tanzania. So this is a good thing. To my view, to preserve Air Tanzania. Then, if some reforms have to be made, if the management, the methods of management has to be changed, of course, you know, even in France, for some public companies, sometimes there are difficulties, problems, blah, 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 and it is up to the auditor and the government to say, well, look, what happened? And we want maybe some changes, domestic changes. But well, my conclusion is that a public company is useful for a country, of course with a good management,
Yes.
in a way to be not private but at least to be efficient in terms of management, and to have a capacity to have a good network, regional network and international network. So definitely my response would be yes, but well, to change what has to be changed.
Okay. So regimes come and go, but as we have already established, Tanzania and France have maintained ties for over many years, many decades. Now, what would you say is that key factor which creates this bond between the two partners?
Well, I think we do have a similar view of first the international relations made or based on peace, stability. Tanzania in its history has played a very active role in the UN, in the international arena, on the African continent. You do have, and you did have also in the past, excellent Tanzanian diplomats. And my view, and I've always repeated that to President Magufuli and also with President Samia, Hassan, we do need Tanzania. Tanzania is a big country. You have a big experience of the world, and nothing can be done without an active Tanzania in the UN. So I've always been very proactive for that on all topics, and so we share the same view of what the international relations have to be, including the multilateral system, which has defaults, which have to be modified, but at least to work together and to be able to discuss when there are big crises, international crises, to remain in the UN and to discuss in the UN. In terms of politics, we also have, even if our history has been in the past different, with choices which were different, which it is history. But we have a similar system in which today in France and today in Tanzania, due to the constitution, the president does play a very important role of influence. And the fact is that the similarity of the two political systems, even if there are differences, of course, but makes that there is one leader.
Yes.
And the one leader can be changed after elections, because we are two democracies.
Yes.
Can be changed, but at least there is one leader, and it's good for the nation to know that she's incarnated by one leader, whatever is this leader. So we have common sense, and we had the capacity in the very recent years, in the last 3-4 years, to work together on different subjects, and we have organized the first session of political dialogue between France and Tanzania in 2019. A new session will be organized all this year or next year. The COVID situation couldn't make it again. But I remember the first one, I was struck to see how much the two teams of Tanzania and France were ready to deliver expertise, to exchange views on difficult subjects as Great Lakes, as nuclear powers, blah, 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 and to try to find the way to work together on these different subjects. So, I mean, we do have together expertise, we do have a big experience, and the point is to make the bridge so that to stabilize the international relations, due to the fact we are also rendered by the instability. And so our common interest is to work in that sense to stabilize peace and stability in the world.
Great. So you became ambassador in 2018. That was under Magufuli's leadership. And then again, 2021 with Samia Suluhu Hassan. We both understand, or we both know that these two leaders have different styles of leadership, but the policies might be the same, but the style of leadership is different. Can you just give us a bit of your take on working with these two different leaders, the late Magufuli and the current president, Samia?
Well, I think they have something in common, which is love of Tanzania. They are patriots.
Yes.
They love their country, they love their people, and they know their people. And you never arrive to such high-level top responsibilities just because it's the hazard. No, because you are the one to be able to incarnate your nation. And I think President Magufuli, during the last 5-6 years, has incarnated his country, giving a big direction for development. And I must say that the first time I met him, and I can make you this confidence, I said, Mr. President, I want you to succeed, you as a president, to make your country a middle-income country to 2025. And France will make all supports to succeed. And so my priority was development at that time, to make this country a middle-income country. And President Magufuli made it, Tanzania made it, and France put many supports for that, just a data, very short. But when I arrived, the French Development Agency, which is a public body for cooperation, delivered every year around $20 million every year. Since 2019, it is now $2,000 million every year. So it means that first, I'm confident, and France is confident for the future of the country when you invest so much in terms of development. And then we succeeded because the country is now a middle-income country.
Yes.
Of course, new efforts have to be made to sustain this new status and to boost growth, economic growth. But the point is very important. And without President Magufuli, maybe things would have been different. With President Samia, Hassan, she knows very well the country. Yeah. She knows the people. She's also a lady, so I think she has a sensitivity to gender equality, etc. And she has a good view of the economy. So we are starting point with a new president. I'm confident because I think the country has all the capacities to develop PPP, public-private partnership, GV, joint ventures, that the economic policy is clear for the stakeholders, domestic or foreign stakeholders. There are some points to correct, to my view, such as sometimes TRA harassment, to have a clear view of the macroeconomic policy of a country. It means to have a sustainable macroeconomic policy and not to change rules or regulations or laws every 1 or 2 years, which creates instability. I think with this 1 or 2 points to be reformed, the country would be very attractive, and I'm really confident. I think the president has the capacity for that. She has a good team. The economic team is good. They have good views of what is necessary to implement. Let us see. I will come back to see you in 2 years, and I'm quite sure that things will be one more step ahead when I will be back to the country to visit you.
Indeed, and you're most welcome. We're looking forward to that.
Thank you.
So we know that ups and downs are part and parcel of any job. So in your role as the envoy of France to Tanzania, what would you list as some of the challenges that you've had to overcome during your time here in Tanzania?
Well, if I can quote one, was the crisis between the EU and Tanzania in 2018, 2019, which has been a difficult period of time between Tanzania and the European Union. France has very much made to decrease the tension. I myself very much worked with some of the ministers to explain and to try to find the solutions to reduce the crisis. This has been a tough moment. Fortunately, things are behind us now, and the relation between Europe and Tanzania are very good and confident. And I think it's good to to be sure that the basements of the relations between these two entities are correct, and that we do have the same views for the future. It was maybe the toughest moments I had to manage. Others, well, it was when I had some difficulties with my companies, French companies, as I said, for example, harassment with Thierry, so I had to explain that it would be better to be softer, blah, 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 blah. But I must say that apart of these 2 points, I didn't have so many difficulties because I think I had very good network at the top management, and I was ready to explain and able to explain in live to the ministers or to State House what was the situation, yes. What was the problem. And I always made it behind the scene, not publicly, taking my voice outside to claim blah, blah, blah. No, I explain in a confident way, in a manner which is good for me and for Tanzania. But well, I have a difficulty. We have to manage. How do we make together? And I must admit that I've been successful in many ways due to the comprehensive attitude of the ministers or the stakeholders. But I repeat, I made it because there was a political confidence between me and them, which is absolutely decisive. No confidence, no results.
So in contrast, what would you list as your biggest achievement during your time as ambassador?
Well, first, I think generally speaking, I've loved so much the country. But my point, apart from development, was to accelerate all ties between the Tanzanian people and the French people. I've been very satisfied to create, as I said, the French-Tanzanian Chamber of Commerce. I've been very satisfied to launch the first high-level meeting between French and Tanzanian universities in 2019. It will be duplicated end of this year to accelerate the bonds between the French and Tanzanian universities in terms of recognitions of diplomas, of partnerships, and I think we have to continue to accelerate in that way. I've been very satisfied to launch the first session of dialogue, political dialogue between France and Tanzania, as I said to you earlier, which was the arena to speak very, very confidently on different sensitive international topics, and we made it very clearly. This is maybe on the top three, if I have to quote three examples of initiatives which have been successful due to I repeat, to the confidence I had and my team had with the Tanzanian stakeholders, Tanzanian people, and I repeat, apart from development, my targets were political ties, university partnerships, and the Chamber of Commerce. Well, so I can leave saying, well, full targets, but thanks to Tanzania.
Indeed. So, how has Tanzania shaped you as a leader, as a public servant? How has your time here in Tanzania shaped you, given you new insights, if any, or the lessons that you have learned?
Well, what I've learned from Tanzania, I think first is that this country is made with a big unity. And I think this is something very important to be protected and defended. Even if the country is with 123 ethnic groups, some of them speaking their native languages, but at least this country is stable and united. And to be Tanzanian, it is something. It is something. And maybe you don't see it, but I feel it. Feel very strong. And you can be very proud of that. And please preserve your unity. It is absolutely decisive. And also to preserve your language, the Kiswahili language. I'm sorry, it's a shame for me that after 3 years and a half, I'm a little bit poor, but I made some progresses and some efforts. But you know, to define the Kiswahili as a united language also of the area, of part of the area, North Mozambique, a part of DRC, Kenya. I sometimes say to my friends, including Tanzanian friends, look, today we do have 6,000 foreign languages in the world, and every year disappear 100 of them because too few people are exchanging, are speaking the language. So please preserve the Kiswahili. It's absolutely decisive. And also the kindness, the openness of the people. I think it's very important to preserve. When I do compare with other countries surrounding Tanzania, I feel Tanzania strong. I don't see any risk in terms of stability for the country. Of course, we are surrounded, the country is surrounded by some instability arenas which have to be dealt. But the fact to have a strong, united country is something which is very exceptional. So my message is to say, well, I've learned a lot from you in that sense. You can be united with differences, and differences enrich the unity of the country, but never forget that it is Tanzania first.
Okay, so there is something which I'm quite sure many people want to hear from you as the ambassador. There was an incident that happened, I think almost a week ago, along the Hassan Road. It involved an assailant, a man who had a gun, but the authorities took care of that. Now, since it happened in close proximity to the French embassy, of course, and other very important environments, very important landmarks in the city, people would want to know. You weren't in the city by that time, so but as the envoy, what would you say about that? And what's your view? What's your input with that regard?
Well, first, it's important to say that every one of our countries can be attacked by a man or woman which had bad views in terms of peace, including my country, France, has received some attacks, of terrorist attacks. So I know how much it is difficult for a country to manage with security. In the case you quote, things are not clear today. If it is criminal, if it is a terrorist action, it's a mix of the two. I'm very confident that the Tanzanian stakeholders who are in charge of this inquiry will make it in a good way, and we will wait for the results. So I have to be cautious on that, not to take any conclusions. But well, I take this opportunity, of course, to present my sincere condolences in the name of France. That's what I made by letter for the policemen who have been killed, and by the civilian who have been wounded. Of course, it is not acceptable. The attack was not against the French embassy. There is nothing to linkage with the French interest. But, well, we have to know that we live in a world which is with irrational movements or irrational behaviors. It is not easy for nobody, including for the body who are in charge with this type of problems. So we have to live with it. I don't know if it's a criminal or terrorist, but my point is to say that all our countries can be targeted by this type of action. So it is important to maintain, of course, high level of security, to be in a solidarity way between citizens, so that to be able to catch a situation which can be dangerous. And then it's up to the security bodies to deal with the question. But really, I've been here for 3 years and a half, more than three years and a half. It was the first big attack which has been dismantled here in Dar es Salaam. So there is no conclusion to say today, except that we have all to be in a solidarity way with the government, with the bodies in charge of the police, and us the citizens to know that we have also a duty, which is to take care of us, but also of the rest of the population.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for your input. What would you say to your successor?
Welcome. I think I would say to him, look, you will succeed if you love the people and if you love Tanzania. Nothing can succeed without a sympathy coming from your heart and coming from your brain. As a diplomat, I was in love with the country, with the people, with the landscapes, with the culture, different types of culture. I took time to visit the country, even if I couldn't make everything. But I've been in love with this country. You have indeed one of the most beautiful countries in the world. So preserve it. It's very, very, very important. And when I do see that even during the COVID pandemic, some French people came from France to visit and to continue to visit the country. This is something very exceptional, and which shows the beautifulness of the country. Everywhere out from the pandemic, we do have between 30,000-40,000 French people visiting the country. So you know how much it is attractive. So I would say to my successor, take time to understand the country, to understand the culture, visit the country, and try to catch the diversity of the country, of the cultures. And if you love the country, well, all the gates are open.
Okay, perfect. So how would you summarize your time as ambassador of France to Tanzania? And if you were to use one French word, I do not know French, but if you were to use one French word to describe your time here, what would it be?
Well, I would say passion, which is quite the same.
Yeah, but it's not
well, I've been, as I said, passionate by your country. I've been open to what you are. I didn't try to change things because you come from thousands and thousands of years in the past. When you see what was the Kiswahili civilization 1,000 years ago, it was something absolutely exceptional, and you can be very proud of it. But also the Bantu culture, Bantu civilization. So there is a mix of many things, which, as a foreigner, I've been in love to understand how much the Swahili civilization was rich in terms of writers, in terms of trade, in terms of poets, poetry, in terms of music. One of the most emotional moments when I was in Kilwa 2 years ago, I visited Kilwa, and I was in the mosque, the old mosque of Kilwa, and one of my favorite Arabic writers is Ibn Battuta. And Ibn Battuta was born in Morocco today, but he lived in the 14th century, and he go to make a big trip to go to the Mecca, and he went through Kilwa, and I didn't know that, and I discovered when I visited the mosque of Kilwa that my favorite Arabic writer, Ibn Battuta, came to the country has paid at least 3 or 4 months in Kilwa, and in his memories has quoted Kilwa as one of the most attractive cities at that moment. And it was very, very emotional. So yes, to passion for me, passion of Tanzania, for the culture, for where you come from your past. And so it's very important to, so that's what I said to some of, to the Minister of Tourism, please enlighten your past. Because Tanzania is not only lions, big five, blah blah blah. It is, of course, not only Zanzibar, but it is also the old culture of the Swahili civilization. And I think this is something, if I were if I were a minister, but I'm not, I would say, well, look, what can we make to enlighten, to make more light on the old Swahili civilization, which was so rich at that time, and we do have this in heritage. How to preserve it, and how to explain to the young generation that they come from that, and it gives a big confidence. When you know your past with such a rich legacy, you are very comfortable. You know from where you were, where you come, so you are sure to know for where you will go for the next step.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Mr. Ambassador. That is all for today. Well, will you be going back to France? Are you being deployed somewhere else, or what does the future look like?
Well, good question. I will receive a response when I will be back to France. I know something will be proposed to me. At least I won't be the next French ambassador to Tanzania.
Okay. It's been a pleasure to have you. Unfortunately, yes.
For me.
Yes. It's been a pleasure to have you, and thank you for your service.
Asante sana.
Tanzania will miss you so much.
Asante sana sana.
Okay, perfect. Well, you were with me, Mpoke Thompson. We were with the French ambassador to Tanzania, the outgoing French ambassador to Tanzania. Until next time, keep watching Mwananchi Digital.